Alright, so I was reading this article. Feds inadvertently publish list of clients of Sarah Lawrence sex cult case. Okay? So Tri-Cities 1980s. So rich people would come to my trailer park, and a lot of times they would watch personal film. I live right next door to a movie theater. They would watch. See, back in the 80s, it was like, you know how they had like movie theaters that would have like porn, but that those type of places wouldn't necessarily have like pedophile porn. See, it was very minimized. There weren't very many places in the world that you could watch pedophile porn. And so they used to have people that would watch pedophile porn in the middle of the night at the movie theater next to my trailer park. And that then I was trained. See, the whole idea is that most people may not realize that they don't necessarily like the Justice Department doesn't necessarily like tell people. It's like when they do these court cases, it's like nobody admits to being a sick satanic psychopath at a prairie tree with little kids. Okay, nobody ever admits to that stuff. That stuff probably comes up. It gets pushed to the side. It probably becomes difficult to even bring into a court case. But the reality is some of these victims, whether they can prosecute people about them or not, some of them probably get documented in the Justice Department. Some people probably talk about victimizations that fall literally in line with the exact indicator of being a victim of Jeffrey Epstein's network of pedophiles. See, I mean, this is, I mean, I don't necessarily come out saying that stuff, but I tell people all the things that make, well, it's like I say, nobody ever explains that stuff, and that when victims talk about the weird prairie tree shit, nobody really knows what that shit means, okay? And so it ends up not really being a part of any of the prosecutions, okay? So I found that out. And so part of Jeffrey Epstein's pedophile network is this child trafficking route that I'm talking about. And that, at first I researched the Northwest down to Las Vegas and LA, basically. And through the middle of California on 395, basically. See, numbers. 395. If you know anything about the weird pedophile fuckbrain numerology and color stuff, 395. And so 395 comes directly to Tri-Cities and Spokane. They use this interpretive number kind of stuff. So my guess is probably through California on 395 highway. Those cities are probably going to be harboring victims that probably have no memory, okay, of the kind of stuff that would have happened to them as children. But I also went down south. And lo and behold, my bro Silk Road profile basically magically worked down there also. And so that is where they would traffic children from the islands to and from. See, Jeffrey Epstein, he would bring directly to like Don Trumps and high price VIPs and stuff like that. Okay? But he had a network that he made that he would launder all of his money through real estate and shit off of. Think of him as like a child trafficking mafia kind of guy, leader, basically. He was like the Don, like the godfather of child pedophilia. And so that is where he had a whole trafficking network that basically here in this town, the first people that were in those voyeur sites in this town were people that were basically paid subversively to be watching over and preventing the Jeffrey Epstein like victims in this town from divulging any of the information. So basically there's just going to be a bunch of victims that are going to have a bunch of these sick fuck voyeurs that sit around if the child starts, or if the adult, usually it's when they become adults, if they start like remembering and trying to tell people about their like victimization, then these cops around here with these dumb Mormons and these people in the law world that are all older and stuff. See, the older ones, they like are in a group fund. They have to do a bunch of like extra work to get their money if the victims of this Jeffrey Epstein stuff start divulging that shit. See, in their group fund, they get their paycheck as long as the victims aren't talking about all of their victimization from the Jeffrey Epstein network, basically. And so the moment that I start talking about that stuff, that's when they get their paycheck reduced. It goes to their bank, but they're not allowed to spend it. And then if they have to like pay rent and shit, if they need their whole paycheck, then they have to do a bunch of online like work and shit. And nowadays it's like Russian contracts and terrorist contracts in like a hacking way. So what I've been researching is I know that there's like a massive amount of victims basically from the 1980s for like the last 35 years. There's been a massive amount of victims all across the United States. One of the things about having so many damn victims means that you have so many damn like people that are voyeuring them, isolating what they do, outfitting them with these speakers, torturing them into silence and shit. That's basically. And so doing forms of psychological tortures that are extremely psychotic and shit like that. Stuff with sound that people may not even understand. Just little meticulous like audio sound manipulations that cause cognitive like changes in the targeted victim and shit. Stuff that is like so fucking psychotic and way beyond like anything. So here in Tri-Cities, they have these 44 Mormon guys that they call the Cuck 44. They're essentially like, think about them as like regional capos for the Jeffrey Epstein gang. Basically. And so one of the things that these dumb Mormons like think is like they attempt to justify like a semantic like a separation of Boy Scout abuse. Like I know this one Mormon who had Mormon Boy Scouts only, who was doing the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, and that he was essentially grooming whoever he could out of his little Cub Scouts and shit to be used in the Jeffrey Epstein child trafficking network. And see, they're always trying to separate it because they know, see, these Mormons around here, they have like they have like hacks into the Justice Department. They like monitor like OCD fucking crazy people out of paranoia. And I like to sit here because they, like I say, they use, this is why I'm awake. Because like I was asleep trying to use my sleep education shit, my project, because I'm doing a new phase, and that they're still used to using the discussion system in my profile around here, and they start talking about this stuff because people, like this article, see this article. They started discussing this article, and that basically it's like it would be like a lecture. I comprehend what they're saying while I'm sleeping because I do a sleep education training. Okay, I just did it as part of my project, something that I came up with myself. And so their discussion this evening was about making a separate culty world, I guess, to push it away from the Justice Department's like approved Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, the Justice Department has like a theme, Jeffrey Epstein, and anything that falls under that, they're kind of going after more and more as they figure out what all that shit is. Their discussion was about like finding ways to push this Boy Scout shit. But see, that stuff doesn't pertain to me because I wasn't a Mormon and I wasn't a Boy Scout. And so the Mormon Boy Scouts I found them like turning into psychos. Okay, so if somebody comes out and says that they're a prairie boy, that's a Jeffrey Epstein victim. That's what that means. See, nobody's supposed to do that prairie shit in the United States or Canada. I mean, it's more of like a English kind of a thing to do, okay? And so those people around here, they have all these Boy Scouts and shit that essentially, the things that happened to me as a child became like a training manual and a training child until I got wizard ghouls. Now those people suffer from fuck switch. But they used me around here as like a training child on how to do this satanic sex slaving that causes amnesia after the sex kind of shit. And so I found someone in like the Missoula area that also falls into similar categories as me, that was surrounded by online with people gawking at her, that fall into these weird, mopey looking, scraggly, weird pedophiles that do these enchantment-y kind of shit. See, the enchantment, that's the Jeffrey Epstein shit. That's the shit that they learned how to do in the 1980s on me. That stuff was like VHS videotaped and used as like a training manual throughout the United States. See, here's what it is. They like team run pedo bang missioned in on these Nazi bikers that know how to do that enchantment shit, okay? Basically. And then they like push them out after they learned how to do that stuff. Cause see, those Nazis, they were always the ones that did that stuff. Jeffrey Epstein is a stupid fucking pedophile. And he would never be the type of person that they would allow to learn that type of shit. And they had those people, those Nazis were doing that to me. And then they had extra people there that were like inserts to like learn how to do that shit. Then they like documented it on VHS. And then they spread it around everywhere. See, the reason that they would have wanted to learn that stuff is because it causes amnesia, right? It's like, when I talk about this MK Ultra stuff, that is essentially the enchantment shit, okay? Basically, I mean, that's part of it. Nobody just knew about that stuff. They had a horrible, raging, like, biker-based Nazi S&M in this town, and that they knew how to do that stuff. But they wouldn't show, like, gross, nasty, gross old Mormons and shit. They wouldn't show those people because the Nazis have somewhat of a restraint in their use of a child like that. It makes them like Nazi God or something like that, okay? So it's not like it's not like something that they don't prevalently use children over and over and over in gross and constant pedophilia. They did that to me because their Nazi S&M required a yearly pedophilia, and that they would only do that with children that were satanically sex slave with the amnesia stuff, but they wouldn't show anybody else because everybody else was a raging pedophile. See, the Nazi, I'm gonna tell you how this came out, how this came to fruition, okay? In the 1980s. The Nazi S&M is all about fucking women, but that it's sadists. The people that fuck women all the time end up having to do a pedophile blackmail because they end up killing people or something. Basically. And so, to keep that stuff covered up from being exposed, they end up having to do a pedophile's blackmail. They don't just do that with anybody. And so, after they like, well, they had people, you know, they were dumb Nazi bikers, but knew how to do that stuff. They got tricked into VHSing the process with me, and then that stuff got distributed to different cities across the United States. It's just like I say, there's people that have used my discussion system in the past. There's like old Klan members and shit that are so fucking pissed about that shit that happened with me in the 1980s because they distributed these VHS tapes all over the South too. And Jeffrey Epstein came and pedo fucking banged Kokomo world. New York City, there was mafia leaders, like real, like Italian mafia leaders that if you, in the past, they would like search for these VHS tapes on how to do that shit that I would be in. It's like if it'll have my face in it. Most of those people get tortured to fucking death if they have like a video of how to like make a little fuck switch prairie boy. So that is like, but that was like the only like training manual in the 1980s, was just me. But since then, people have made other ones, and that it's a lot more prevalent. And people, now it's part of all these other S&Ms and shit. It's everybody learns how to do it nowadays, and that they used to attempt to be destroying the ability of people understanding how to do that stuff. But it's now you have little stupid little high school kids that know how to do that stuff. Like I say, most of them like to act like those little girls that have the little animal hats on, and then they like to make everybody, they like to sit there, they like to find the boys that have the lisps, and then they act like fucking raging psychopath pedophiles. Huh, Mopey? Come on, Mopey. Just talk about that horse track betting guy. Get your state's pass, buddy. Talk about it, because he's part of Cayman Island pedo bang. Kokomo horse track betting, always part of that shit. 100%. No, I'm pretty sure Mopey's a bastard to that guy, so. Whatever Mopey's real name is, I like to bring him up because Mopey is like his like hacker handle. And everybody around here, like, he tries to be a king psychopath pedophile around here. And that one of the things that king psychopath pedophile is in charge of is keeping information like what I'm constantly shoving in his face a secret. And so, if you're not gonna look like a stupid fucking pedophile, then you're thinking backwards. And so, here's isolation of information.